Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you, coming at you with some more branded Dracotail. I switched up my build a little bit. A lot of people recommend cutting call by and cross out, which sounds really weird, but definitely makes sense, as you actually want to have more monster-based hand traps for your off engine to be able to fuse with not just during your turn one, but during your opponent's turn as well. And honestly, you can dodge a lot of hand traps in this deck really easily. Even stuff like Maxi and Fuelos, you can often just summon Golemel, set a couple of trap cards, give your opponent one draw. So you'd be surprised how little you actually need cards like Call By and Cross Out in a deck like Dracotail. Here though, I have the Ash Blossom for their Maxi, so I can simply use the Arthelion to not only, of course, advance my combo, but I can even wheel the Ash Blossom back into my hand to use during my opponent's turn against them as well. Gonna set Raku as well as Flame, adding back the Phimena as well as my Ash Blossom. And because I have the extra body on board, the Lucius, we can even link that off for Spirit with Eyes of Blue and set up a Spheres as well. Getting spherical! I really like board states where we can make spheres. Like, obviously the bounce from spheres is really good, but also having the option to go into the Malulu is just excellent. So here my opponent's going to throw down the Retaliating Sea, one of the more popular techs in the current metagame. I'm going to fuse with the Ghost Bell in my hand. That way I don't have to banish my Phimena, and I can still use that on my opponent's turn. Also, I can simply use Golemel right now in order to pop the Retaliating Sea and not have to deal with the banish effect anymore. Now, they will get to activate Retaliating Sea to add Maxi, but I have an Ash Blossom that I will back off of Arthelion anyway, so I'm really not that concerned about a Maxi here. Opponent's going to go straight to battle phase and throw down Evenly, another card that's actually quite popular against Dracotail, but another tech card that's actually not too difficult for Dracotail to play around. I'm going to use Spheres, bounce back my own Golemel, so now all I have is Flame. We're going to go Spheres F to summon Malulu from deck. They're going to chain Maxi. I, of course, have the Ash Blossom for it. And now, going into my opponent's main phase 2, I have 3 points of interaction, Malulu, Phimena, and Flame, against their 3-card hand. So I still feel really good about the position I'm in. They're going to go for Lacrima, send Tract, and then link off Lacrima in order to summon out Fiendsmith's Requiem. My opponent's going to go Requiem effect in order to summon out Fiendsmith Engraver. Now they're going to go Requiem effect equip. And I make a pretty huge misplay here. For some reason, I was like, oh yeah, it's Requiem that causes, the pop effect, right? Totally forgetting it was Engraver. So I actually wasted my Flame here. But it cycled me into a Veiler, so I guess that's fine. I mean, it's not fine. That was objectively a bad play, but I don't know. I made the misplay. It's not like I'm going to concede on the spot for it. We're going to keep playing. We're still in a good position here. I can revive the Arthelion, and then as they go for Fiendsmith's Lacrima, to revive the Lacrima Crimson Tears, I'm going to go Phimena effect. Now, here they're going to use Call By. Obviously, it would have been really nice to have Dracotail Flame here. Then I could have gone Arthelion and bounced their 2 monsters, Lucius, set Rahu, or Ketu rather, or something, and then obviously been set up for my turn really nicely. But we can still Veiler the sequence here. And now the best they can do is probably revive Engraver, go into SP, because they do still have the Engraver Graveyard effect. I'm pretty sure they never use that. It looks like instead they're just going to make a Typhone. Typhone F to bounce back my Arthelion, and then they're going to pass back over to me. So, yeah, I mean, we could have been in a better state, but we also have the Branded Fusion now. If I didn't top deck Branded Fusion, if it had been any monster card, I think we still would have been fine, right? Normal summon Lucius, Lucius add Phimena, and then we could have Phimena to fuse. Well, I could have set Ketu, or added Ketu. Well, no, Lucius only adds monsters. Anyway. Yeah, here they're going to go for the Requiem to summon the sequence, or not sequence, the Lacrima, rather. I am going to use the Albion effect here in order to summon Sanctifier. Not only for the body, but also just to have plays if things start to go south here. Gonna set Raku, and they are actually gonna dump the Vs.Fiendsmith in Paradise, which is a little bit concerned about. But we can still go into the Golem here. Dracotail, Pan, and Lucius both get to activate their effects. They're going to use Fiendsmith in Paradise, which will let them send Desiree and then send either Golem or Albion. But I'm really not that concerned, even if they do send Golem here, because I can still set off of my 2 Dracotail monsters and to pop their Typhone. Now my Arthelian's live. Ketu can fuse here because my opponent controls a monster. And then because 2 of my monsters will have gotten sent at the same time, I can just revive the Golem out anyway. So the Fiendsmith in Paradise didn't really end up mattering. Also, I can fuse in a Chaos Star Source Dragon, which will pop my opponent's card. And then when Golem revives, that would have been 8,300 damage on board. So going into the OTK, could have set myself up more cleanly on that comeback turn to win. But even through my own misplay, we were still able to get there. So let me show you our next game. Alright, this one is going to be a going second duel. These are all Duelist Cup games, so can't tell you ahead of time what my opponent's on because I can't see in the replay info, but we'll probably see soon enough here, as again, they are taking the first turn. We opened pretty well here. Fua, Valor, we'd love to see it. It's the Onomatopoeia deck. I'm trying to remember if they were actually playing Ryzeal. I think this might have just been straight up Onomatopoeia, if I remember right. They're going to go for the Go-Go Goblinberg and the Ganbara Knight. That's pretty rough for me because even if I were to Valor the Goblinberg here, they would still be able to special the Ganbara Knight, and then detaching would have allowed them to add even more cards. That's always the really annoying part about the Onomatopoeia engine, of course. But I'm going to go for the Fulos here. They're actually going to revive from the graveyard as a result of that, and they're going to go for the Gaga Gaga Girl. So I'm going to use Valor on this because I know it can add the Counter Trap Omni Negate. And at this point, I'm still thinking they could be Onomatopoeia Ryzeal, and if that's the case, this will keep them off the Counter Trap Omni for good. But yeah, the more I'm remembering, this is actually just a straight-up, quote-unquote, pure Onomatopoeia deck. Of course, also playing Utopia stuff, but it's Yuma.deck, it's Zexal.deck. Anyway, gonna use the Ghost Spell on the Dodo Dwarf there, gonna force him to use the Ganbara Knight. They also have another Onomato Kage in their hand, which kind of told me right there that it wasn't Ryzeal, and the Galaxy Photon Dragon kind of confirmed it. They're going to detach in order to add Galaxy Ice Tachyon Primal, which was a little surprising to me until I realized they could use that to add 7th Tachyon. Not only can they do that, but they can also use the Galaxy Photon Dragon effect to change its level to 4, meaning it being a level 8 monster doesn't actually clash with the archetype, which is a pretty cool engine extension that I hadn't really seen before. So definitely huge props to my opponent for demonstrating that. Alright, they're going to make, is this Eclipse Twins? It's 2 Xyz monsters. No, it's the Utopic Future Zexal, which I've actually never seen this card before. I mean, I've seen it, of course. I know what it does, but I've never had this card summoned against me before. So basically, for those not familiar with how this actually acts as disruption on the opponent's turn, basically, it makes the rest of your field besides this untargetable. Also, when I activate a card or effect that can detach a material, it doesn't negate or destroy the card I activate, but it will let them steal a monster on my field. And then also this card will not be able to be destroyed for the rest of the turn. So, thankfully the Fua did keep them from summoning too much here. But they are still going to put up some pretty solid disruption. They're even going to get to overlay the Utopia double into the Utopia Dragonar, which can then activate in order to summon a numbers monster from the extra deck. But I'm actually pretty fine with this, because now their field is full, and that means they can't steal with the Utopic Zexal. It has a lot of stats right now, you know, 10,500, but this can't activate its effect right now because their field is full. So we're going to activate the Branded Fusion first. It feels like a pretty obvious negate that they would use the Hope Harbinger on. And they did end up adding the Counter Trap Omni Negate as well. So I'm going to use Ketu in order to bait that out. I was really glad my opponent used their negate so early. It really was my hope in activating these spell cards. Now I could go normal summon Lucius, and even if they had another negate, we still just had the fine mana in hand. but here I can add Pan, and then I'll use 5 mana to fuse the Orgola and Pan in my hand to summon the Arthelion. Now, again, the only thing I can target on my opponent's field right now is the Utopic Future Zexal. So we're going to bounce that with the Arthelion, as well as set with both of our cards here. However, the Pan Destroy effect does not target. So I can simply use that and then pop their Dragonar, their big monster here, as well as bounce their other one. Now, I totally forgot that Hope Harbinger had an effect to gain attack points, but that actually just doesn't matter because I can get rid of that too. I can go for the Golemel, and then when I go to set off of Phimena and Malulu, that'll of course trigger Golemel's effect in order to destroy the Photon Dragon. So I'm in a game state where I'm probably not going to be able to OTK, but I've basically established complete control of the duel, and my opponent realizing this is going to concede. Because I would have gotten to set more trap cards. I have the Flame in hand already, as well as an Effect Veiler. So going to my opponent's turn, I would have had the Graveyard Banish, the bounce off the Horn, the Flame Negate, the pop off the Golemel, and the ability, of course, to fuse yet again by adding the Phimena back too. So definitely a good example of playing through the opponent's combo. Granted, I stopped it a little bit short with Fua, but it was still a bit of an effort to push through their board state. Anyway, let's check out the next game. Alright, so this is going to be a game, I believe, against Odeon. And this was, I think, maybe the second time total I've ever run into Odeon, you know, since the release of the new pack. It's just so much... Oh, no, wait. This isn't Odeon. They just had a man with the Mark avatar, but I'm pretty sure this is a different deck. I guess we'll see. No, they're on Branded. I remember this duel. They're on Branded. I thought I had an Odeon game in here, but maybe I just misremembered. Anyway, we're going to go Branded Fusion to start things off here. Setting the Katu Dracotail off the, whatever the level 2 is called, I forget. Freixel, or however it's pronounced. Lucius add Phimena. I'm going to use the Phimena to actually fuse the monsters that are on my board, summon the Secretarian Dragon. I could have used the 2 monsters in hand, but I wanted to use one of them for Rahu, and I don't know, it's never a bad idea to summon Secretarian Dragon and kind of hedge. Like, in the current meta, it's not a bad idea to assume you're playing against Dracotail if you're kind of blind going into your opponent's deck going first. Now, granted, my opponent's on 60, so I think they would have... I don't think there's many 60-card Dracotail builds out there. Not many, like, standard popularized ones anyway, but... So I should have kind of guessed there that they probably weren't going to be on the mirror match, but... I mean, to be fair, Secretarian Dragon does still have a lot of use against other decks, like Branded, which does often play 60. So I still felt pretty good about ending on this card here. They're going to go Draw Phase Maxi, which I'm fine with. I'm just going to hold off on summoning Phimena unless I absolutely need to. They go Rhoda for again, which kind of threw me off a little bit. I was like, okay, so maybe it's not Branded, but then they used Fusion Deployment. And I was like, I don't know. They added again, that kind of threw me off, and I'm like, why would you Fusion Deployment for Albaz or Cartesia while I have Secretarian Dragon? What if they summon, like, a Rhino Heart? That was actually my thought, is that I was on some kind of 60-card tier limit deck that was also using, again, Ken Engine. And I thought, okay, they also have Rhoda to be able to add Rhino Heart as well. So that's why I Ash Blossomed Fusion Deployment here. Again, I actually kind of assumed at this point I was playing against some kind of tier limit. I thought to myself, it's okay if they go Gen, because then I could just bounce it with the Horn before they get a chance to use the effect. I'm going to go Flame on the triple attack they're going to use to try to steal here, and the draw is actually going to find me a Maxi. But then they did end up throwing down Branded Fusion, and I was like, okay, that's completely fine. I'll chain Maxi, get a draw, and then whatever you summon can't activate its effect anyway. And yeah, my opponent realizing pretty quick just how bad of a spot they were in decided to concede here as well. So yeah, that was a pretty solid game there, showing off the full Branded Fusion live that I found on Moha's channel, Moha the Goat as always, and that I showed off in one of my videos as well. But sorry about that, it was just a loud sound outside. Anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at our last game here. Okay, and here is our final duel for the video here. This game I just played earlier today, the day I'm recording this, so I just cannot remember what I was up against. Oh well, maybe we'll see here. Okay, so this hand looks really solid. I'm going to lead with Lucius here in case they have a negate, which they do. It's a Veiler, so it's probably the mirror match. If I see Effect Veiler, I tend to assume I'm playing against Dracotail. Because that is actually the deck most likely to play Veiler. That sounds really weird because Veiler is a really generic card, but if you actually look at what hand traps decks are playing, it really is Dracotail that is by far the majority playing Veiler. But we were able to bait out the Veiler, use Ketu to add 5 mana, use 5 mana to fuse Arthelion. Now I can use Arthelion to not only add back 5 mana, but also the Magnum Hut that I fused from hand as well. So I do kind of have to give my opponent some information that I have Magnum Hut as a potential hand trap here, but I think it's worth it because I use the 2 materials from hand. Now I can go into the Spirit with Eyes of Blue off Lucius and add spheres to my end board. Once again, we're getting spherical! Just love that reference. Anyway, I really, again, love having spheres on my end board. It's so nice. Oh, I remember now. But this opponent was on the Millennium Exodia style deck. Because I'm remembering exactly how we're going to use our spheres to disrupt them here in a moment. But first we're going to get our other Dracotail effects, setting Sting, as well as Flame. I already have Horn in my hand. I actually really like playing Sting. It's just nice to have a third Dracotail trap card. That way, if you open one of the trap cards, and or if you have an extra, Dracotail effect because you opened with multiple bodies, you don't have to awkwardly set a Ketu for a follow-up turn. You can actually just have more trap cards. Here they're going to send Golemel in order to summon Gamma Seal. Then they're going to go Sengenjin and then the Blue Eyes to add the Ankh. Now when Sengenjin activates, I'm not going to use Flame, I'm going to use my spheres. Because I know if I bounce Sengenjin, it won't summon and it also won't search. Then I can save my spheres for the Ankh. Also, of course, I get to summon Malulu. Malulu has the potential to activate its effect to negate a card when it fuses. So if they were to, for example, put a monster in the spell trap zone, I could use the Malulu to negate it while it's still in the spell trap zone. Anyway, there's our games. Let me show you the build and we'll finish off here. Okay, so here's my updated branded Dracotail build. Again, per the suggestion of at least one, but I think maybe a couple of the commenters. Again, we took out the call by and cross out, and as weird as that sounds, I actually don't miss them at all. So I replaced those and also cut out the Cartesias, which just never really came up for me. In their place, I'm playing a few hand traps that I wasn't before, like Ghost Spells as well as the Magnum Hut. Ghost Spell, even though a lot of Dracotail plays can be chain blocked around it, is still pretty good for stopping things like Orgola adding 5 mana back to hand, or sometimes Arthelion gets summoned in a board state where you can't really chain block and you could Ghost Spell there. But Ghost Spell also just has a lot of utility in general. It's a good generic hand trap. Extra deck, I think, is more or less still the same. I mean, we're still playing the same kinds of cards, So pretty much, yeah, that's my biggest update to the deck is cutting Call by Crossout. I think that, because I've been playing a lot of Magistus as well, I've kind of been going back and forth, and you'll see Magistus Dracotail gameplay coming up in the channel here pretty soon. Again, but I think I definitely understand why Branded is the variant of choice. As people have mentioned in the comments as well, the Magistus line, while adding negates and a more utility to your end board, it does have a lot more weakness to hand traps that Dracotail with a small branded engine doesn't. Weaknesses to Droll, weaknesses to Nib, so on and so forth. So I definitely understand why people prefer this build. Plus the extra deck options are very nice, the Mirror Jade and especially the Sanctifier. But I will say again that Sanctifier didn't really come up for me. I did have a game against Odeon where I summoned it, and it was actually pretty nice. Not even just for the summon to my opponent's field effect, but the fact that it couldn't be targeted or used as fusion material meant that my opponent couldn't pop it with like their Apophis card or use their Super Poly to fuse it away. But that said, I still think it's kind of a niche application, and definitely not neat. But in any case, I think that's all I have to say about the build for now, so that's going to do it. Let's go to move on to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.